against it. He just wants amendments.
We just want amendments. So pretty much we have to talk to them and pretty much convince them that we're on their side.
Is there a motion to open debate?
A motion to open debate.
That passes.
I believe no one deserves to endure domestic violence and or sexual harassment. Their characteristics should not, under any circumstances, determine the worth of their life. We need to act now and reauthorize VAWA.
Okay, so between the years 1994 and 2010, domestic violence decreased about 64%, while the total amount of crimes committed in the U.S. decreased by 400%, which means that the VAWA didn't help that much to decrease domestic violence, so we should find another way to reauthorize it that's more effective. Thank you.
I believe that this bill is not the way to end violence against women. This bill, while it may seem like it's empowering women and saving them from further danger, it's taking their power away and making it so that they are not allowed to decide how they want to live their lives. Thank you.
I believe that it also could reach out to more women across America. It could reach out to Native Americans, and it could also bring more women into the country who have been abused by partners or have threats put against them.
Someone in Mexico may be being terribly abused by their partner and need to flee the country in order to escape them. Say they come over the border and they get citizenship. That's a good thing. They're escaping their partner. They're being able to have a good life.
I would like to allocate certain funds to the Smart Prevention Program to create more grants. What this program does is it educates and goes to smaller communities about the harm of teen pregnancy, as well as the danger of harassment and dating abuse. Thank you.
Incarceration and legal involvement lead to higher rates of domestic violence. By involving the criminal system less, we would effectively lower the rates of domestic violence and help women and men and people of all race, religion, sexual orientation, etc. to help them get rid of domestic violence.
I respectfully disagree with your point. I think the reason why we are trying to implement counseling options is because the judicial system is sadly not doing its part. People are being incarcerated, they're taking their time, and then guess what? They're coming right back out and repeating it. That is why I think we definitely need to allocate these funds to counseling, because once they understand the true effects of what they're doing through a counseling option or something related to that, I believe they'll have more of an idea of what they're doing and not repeat it again.
Moderator caucus with a 30-second speaking time to discuss the allocation of U visas.
That is in order. All those in favor? All those opposed? This passes.
I believe that it is necessary to distribute U visas because when people come into the country, they expect to find a place of freedom and a place of justice. And by not providing U visas, we would be saying, if you're not a citizen, you get no justice, you get no law, and we are just turning a blind eye to the abuse.
In 2017, there were just over 150,000 people who wanted a U visa, but we only give out 10,000, which means that there's so many people who don't have a chance to come to this country.
And U visas are a very easy way for these criminals to get a green card or even citizenship in the United States, which can be easily taken advantage of by somebody with bad intentions.
It's allowing them to commit more crimes, and it's super risky, so we shouldn't be helping these illegal immigrants become citizens.
These are not necessarily criminals. These people are people that are abused, that have had violence put against them. These people need help. The cause we are talking about today is women's protection. And when we are allowing immigrants into the country and allowing them to have a green card and a visa, we are allowing them to commit more crimes against women.
However, I would like to remind everyone in the room that a U visa only lasts for 4 years, and it is simply to give the opportunity and protection that the VAWA bill offers in order for these people to get back on their feet before they return wherever they are going.
A U visa is allowing them to do bad things and then get out of the country legally without persecution.
The United States was created to protect all people, despite how they identify, what they believe, or what faith they have. So I think that it is our job to protect everybody. And even if you personally might disagree with this, our job is to protect the United States and the rights of people.
Given a fair trial to prove that you are not guilty.
And let's say something that this bad would only put somebody in jail for a smaller amount of time, not a life sentence. Then imagine they come back, and don't you live with that fear of constantly being harassed, being a victim again?
So maybe we could work on an amendment, a bipartisan amendment that has mandatory arrest for certain cases, like you guys were describing, that definitely require mandatory arrest.
Because the fact remains that some of these people are mentally ill, and I think that it's really important that they see that what they did was wrong, and I don't think that putting them in harsher security, getting better guards, I don't think that's going to make them see what they did was wrong. I think it's going to get them, if anything, more riled up or angry.
1994 to 2010, overall the number of people reporting domestic abuse has went up since VAWA was enacted, just because they have a lot more support for reporting. So once people report, they have a lot more support through VAWA. So those are all things to bear in mind.
I don't think it's a coincidence that domestic abuse has fallen in the years that VAWA was enacted. I don't think that just came out of nowhere.
$1.6 billion were allocated over a 6-year period to enforcement agencies and the judiciary to investigate and prosecute cases. I believe that some of this money should instead go to things such as job training and prevention programs to help women leave abusive partners.
The U.S. government gives a ton to the criminal system in the first place. We're just taking a little bit out of the amount that VAWA gives. So it's not even that much. We just want to try a counseling program in hopes that it does help the abusers and the abused.
And how do you know that people would willingly be with a known abuser for long periods of time?
I'd like to say that I do not think that it is worth the gamble that this might not actually work to take 20% away from the criminal justice system, something we know has been decreasing the domestic violence rate by 64% since 1990.
You can improve their character before they relapse and before they make a mistake again. That's the point of counseling. And it's not more of a gamble, it's more of a certain thing. When you're helping women who are struggling without their partner, I think helping them with skills is more of a no than an experiment, as you're saying. I think it'll be successful.
I believe there should be an option to just revoke the visa if the person has committed a crime or such a bad thing.
Want to enter voting procedure, and then you have to vote on whether or not you want one for or one against. But you can abstain from yes or no on this amendment.
Abstaining is the same thing as no, because you need 2/3 majority of yes.
No. So when you abstain, you're removed from the quorum. So it is as if you aren't here.
Amendment 1.00 is really good because it both allocates money to studies to prove the VAWA's effectiveness, while also allowing some of the law enforcement funds to be used for community services and programs, including counseling and also the SMART prevention program. Thank you.
By giving money to prevention, we will later be saving money.
It's half of the money in our reserves, and I just think it's not a very good idea to use this money.
I do not see any word that shows me that what they are doing here is an operative clause. $240 million is ridiculous. Ridiculous funding.
I know that $240 million is quite a bit, but we need to make a change because currently VAWA is not making enough difference, and we need to try more.
It is not fair to these women, LGBTQ+ people, and immigrants to just let them be abused and just say, oh, VAWA will fix it. We need to prevent it.
We are now in voting procedure. The doors are barred. You cannot enter or exit. All those in favor of clause 3.
$1 million.
Can we clap?
And a lot of times it's a cycle of violence, so a partner will like demonstrate violence, or demonstrate abuse, violence, or either of those two, and then kind of back off and be like romantic. They don't actually think it's abuse because their partner then like acts like they really care about them, or whether they're controlling them with money.
Yeah, so please try to respect the gravity of this crime.
If a case is severe enough for someone to call the police and press charges in the first place, then it is severe enough for a no drop policy and a mandatory arrest policy.
These are people too, and this act covers all people, no matter their sexuality, sexual orientation, or anything.
The U.S. formally recognizes 2 genders, but certain states do recognize a 3rd gender. It is up to the discretion of the state.
We have both sides, people who want only mandatory arrest and people who want no mandatory arrest, people who want to leave it up to the woman. So we've made a compromise. Only crimes deemed significant enough for mandatory arrest, as listed above, will require mandatory arrest. And those that have been deemed lesser crimes do not require mandatory arrest and are instead up to the woman. We're giving the woman more power, but we are also enforcing justice on crimes that are significant.
What if she is threatened to change her mind by the person who is physically abusing her? Or what if she just changes her mind because she loves him, even if it is harming her and harming her life? If someone is manipulating you and threatening you to not prosecute them, then mandatory arrest should happen because of fear for your life.
All those in favor of clause 1, please raise your placards. This clearly passes. We'll now move on to clause 2.
Oh, let's go.
All those in favor of the mandatory arrest clause? All those opposed? This clearly fails. So out of amendment 2, only clause 1 passed. And it will now be added to our list of resolutions on the final bill.
I would like to say if the abused drops charges, a minimum of 6 months restraining order will be issued against the accused abuser that can be extended to the discretion of the abused to basically prevent the abused from just going back.
But will there be protection for the woman while the case is being investigated?
There is the protection of the temporary restraining orders, which are mandatory temporary restraining orders, which are already in the VAWA bill.
Santa Clara County does have a program that provides psychologists to individuals who have been abused. Minimum billing amount is about $100 per hour. That's minimum. It could go up to $300 or $400 for these psychologists. So given the number of cases, that comes out to a huge amount of money if we're going to provide a psychologist with minimum 5 hours of therapy just to determine whether they're safe or not.
As our legal analyst said, $5 billion is how much these psychologists will cost. This is simply too much money, especially seeing that the budget for VAWA this year was only $500 million.
So all those that wish to abstain on voting for Amendment 4.00, please raise your placards. All those in favor of Amendment 4.00, please raise your placards.
Oh yeah.
Fails.
Motion to present Amendment 42.0.
This clearly passes. Amendment 42.0 will be introduced.
Clause number 1, the amount of U visas will change to 15,000 from 10,000. And number 2, U visa applicants can only bring immediate family, such as spouse or dependent, specifically wife or husband, kids, and younger siblings that are minors.
These immigrants are illegal. They shouldn't be allowed to come into the U.S. in the first place.
And so they try and come in to America to try and save themselves from dying or continuing a life of abuse from their partner, that we should refuse them because it's a crime to come into the country.
So they come here for asylum because this is one of the only places they can go.
Ending chain migration for everyone but children is the only way to ensure that we can control how many we have in our country.
I feel like it is extremely important we realize that chain link migration will bring in many, many more people than just 5,000 visas.
However, about 116,000 total U visa recipients and their family members have received some sort of immigrant status. All right, seeing the support, we will enter voting procedure. Representative Marinos and co-host block the door. Representative Nadler, do you deem this friendly?
Friendly.
Representative, you must leave. We're in voting procedure.
No!
Let's go.
Representative.
We are essentially encouraging people to enter this country illegally, and they are bringing their family.
You don't have to enter in our country legally. There are programs that grant plenty of asylum to those struggling.
All those in favor of Amendment 42.0, please raise your placards. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one abstaining is absent. So this motion failed.
Barely.
Raskin, the motion to close debate. All those in favor, please raise your placards.
Right.
Passes.
Yeah,
Debate is now closed.
No!
Alright, we'll now vote upon the motion to open debate. All those in favor, please raise your placards. This motion is passed. We're now in session. Beginning with Representative Nadler's motion to introduce Amendment 42.0, as has been amended regarding U visas. All those in favor, please raise your placards. This motion passes. We'll now introduce Amendment 42.0.
The goal of this amendment is not to increase the amount of illegal immigrants living in this country. The goal of this amendment is to allow VAWA's protection towards illegal immigrants who would be deported otherwise, that have been domestically abused, sexually harassed, or are victims of stalking and violence.
It's not okay that we're giving so much power to Congress to just set the amount of U visas to whatever they think is appropriate, because that takes the power out of the hands of the people who should actually have a say in how many U visas are actually going out.
If we pass this bill in its entirety, then both parties will have gained something that they wanted and could not be achieved any other way.
You say that this will end chain migration.
But it won't. It only encourages people and immigrants to illegally come into this country so that they might have refuge and take refuge.
The chain migration here is only for family members of those illegal immigrants abused in the United States. That's only a few thousand people. Chain migration for legal immigrants is so much more. And if you actually want to end chain migration, look there. This goes nowhere to do that. This is not bipartisan, and this is a really bad idea.
It will protect both women, men, whatever you identify it as. It will protect everyone from abuse, domestic violence, whatever it is that you come by. It will protect you from being harassed, stalked, and this is really important so that our country is a safe place for everybody.
This went from a not very bipartisan bill to an excellent example of bipartisanship.
When Representative Sensenbrenner, Jackson Lee, Richmond, Pelosi, and I, when we first created this beautiful bill, we had many intentions for it. And I feel like today we've been able to take multiple steps forward and to reach the final goal of VAWA and to eventually reach the final goal of bringing domestic violence, assault, sexual assault, stalking, and harassment to zero. Thank you.
However, we added even more unnecessary programs that are sinks for money, that take money away from the effective criminal justice system that has been helping us lower the crime rates. So unfortunately, even though I do support an act that prevents violence against women, I cannot support this bill in its current state.
There are some amendments such as the mandatory arrest that should definitely be passed. there's also other amendments, such as the U visas. They're allowing illegal immigrants into the U.S., and we cannot let this happen, and so I cannot support this entire bill as a whole.
I beg of you all not to succumb to the liberal scam that you have fallen for. These amendments have not made the Violence Against Women Act better. They have made it worse. They have taken ideas that we actually need help for and made amendments that appear to be helping but are actually sucking money into programs that most likely will not work because they are not tried and tested.
For our women and our men that are abused in the United States, we made sure that we economically support them. We have made sure that we made a compromise on mandatory arrest. And one of the most important things to me that we have done is we made sure that Native Americans have the option to stay in their own, to be tried in their own tribal court. I believe that we should all vote for this bill because over the past few days, we have shown bipartisanship, we have compromised, and I think we should all vote for this bill.
This motion passes. We are now in voting procedure. Representative Poe and Representative Marino, please bar the boards.
Think of the woman who would be abused and who feels safer with this bill in place. And think, if this bill is not in place, they are not protected as well as they could be.
Like many of my fellow Republicans have said, we're not getting what we want. It's more of a liberal attack on us.
We'll now vote on the resolution before us, the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act as amended by the House Judiciary Committee over the last 2 days. All those in favor of passing this resolution as amended, please raise your placards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This resolution passes.
I'm looking for a prayer of the national anthem.
And motion is in order.
Say just the Star Spangled Banner, yet wave for the land of the free, for the home of the brave.
Welcome to our closing ceremonies. I'd like to begin by thanking all of the delegates for all of your long hours of debates all weekend long. To that end, we're going to hear from a variety of delegates from each committee and then their chair or the debate moderator for that committee.
In a debate, there are things that separate my fellow delegates from others, things that make them stronger. The two skills that I think really separate delegates is the ability to stay on policy through the entire debate and to stay on task in unmods. But the best thing for you to do is to stay on policy, to challenge yourself, to have that experience, and to make your voice heard, so not to succumb to peer pressure.
Even though it took us very long, it taught us how to persuade people and how to find everyone's viewpoint on this and how to make a compromise and put them all into one amendment. Thank you.
While I may have been tempted to go off policy and to address the needs of myself or wants of myself, the fact that everyone was playing their part to keep the debate divided and going made it all the more interesting. This is what I loved most about the debate. People who totally didn't agree with who they were representing provided different and analytical views that otherwise wouldn't have been introduced to the room. The third and most important reason why it is important to follow the views of your representative is that it allows the debate to really come to life. While I am a first-year delegate and acknowledge that this is my second debate of hopefully many more, I believe that I have already learned and experienced so much through the League of Creative Minds program. Thank you.
Research is very valuable in many aspects of any given conference. It factors into many aspects of the debate, including your efficiency, your knowledge of your own policy and others' policies, knowledge of the current bill proposed, as well as anything related to statistics that could help you prove your point.
Even though this experience was highly stressful at times, particularly right before our final vote, I really think that it was a learning experience, especially for me to develop my resilience and how to use my voice. And I don't think that I will forget any of the lessons I learned in this debate
at all. Thank you.
I had the distinct privilege in this conference to be a chair, as Kelly mentioned, for the Judiciary Committee and also the Policy Director. And as most of the delegates mentioned, we were debating the Violence Against Women's Act. I think it really has prominence today, given the fact that there is this huge national conversation surrounding Me Too and sort of sexual violence, assault, interactions, so forth. And I think why this bill in particular is so important too is because it's not just talking about it sort of in the larger or work phase, but also what happens in the home. And the home forms so much of what happens outside of the home that talking about it in that context is super important and huge. So I think that's sort of the relevance today.